Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Dude, I'm full.
Yeah, lunch today was rough.
Yeah. Not in a bad way, but
I've had a meeting since then that has sort of energized me a little bit, but I'm not quite ready for this. Like,
I knew not to sit back down at my desk or if
Yeah.
I was getting back up. So we went and ate pizza buffet for lunch.
yeah, it was a bad idea. Well, no, it was a great idea.
It was a great idea.
It's having bad implications or ramifications post, especially because I have a
Yeah.
lot to do.
Yeah, the carb overload has slowed me down,
Yeah.
but that's all right.
And I'm having pizza again for dinner.
Yeah, you are going to struggle, dude, for
Yeah,
your book
because then I've
club.
got to teach tonight, and I still have to get ready for that as well.
You're like, what's the part in Revelations where everybody goes to sleep? I want to study that really quick.
I'm going to teach you what I taught my book club last week. There's no book in the Bible called Revelations.
I know, stop. It's just, look, we've talked about everything that comes out of my mouth, I think.
I know.
I mean, it's like the boy who cried wolf. It's everything I do is just whatever. Just go with it. Thank you for coming to the Potluck of Pastors podcast.
Yeah, it's a competition.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So I wanted to continue our discussion that we started a week before last, where we were going through the Bible and individuals that are there and the stories that are showcased there in the Old Testament specifically. And we left off with Moses, and we talked about him and the encounter that he had with God on top of the mountain and the burning bush. And so I wanted to pick up from where we left off, where, God had given him this command that he's going to be leading the Israelites out of slavery and freedom from Pharaoh and the oppression that they were feeling. But immediately after he had this charge from God, he was filled with doubt.
Yeah.
Like lots and lots of doubt, because if you think about what we talked about, there was people looking for him that wanted to murder him and kill him because he had killed somebody.
Yep.
He also petitioned to God because he had an issue with stuttering and fumbling over his words, kind of, I guess, like I did. Me and Moses got a lot in
You
common.
don't know anything about that, do you?
No, I don't. Did Moses have a big nose?
Oh, man.
Probably, right?
I have no idea. I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah, that was
That's
good.
different. That was a bad joke. Oh, I was supposed to bring a dad joke. I forgot. I'll come back to that.
Yeah, it's all good.
I was supposed
But
to
I wanted to talk a little bit about this feeling of being disqualified from something from maybe of your past, or maybe you feel like you don't have the skill set. And I think that there's like a lot of truth that we could just kind of like unpack from there about what God saw in Moses.
Yeah, well, that was that pizza hitting me again right there. Yeah, no, I mean, this conversation between God and Moses it should be everything that people like me and you need to not have the issues that we have.
For sure.
With like imposter syndrome and not believing in ourselves or not feeling qualified.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not. I mean, we still struggle with it. But like where Moses, he didn't feel adequate for the job that he was given. I know that's something that you resonate with. It's something that I resonate with, but it's been interesting. Like, I would say, like, early on, like when I was just the teaching pastor before I was the lead pastor, I was the lead teaching pastor. I felt pretty good in that role. I felt like right in my sweet spot.
Yeah.
And then when I had to transition to the new role of being the lead pastor and doing not just the teaching, but, the leading of the church and all that. That's when this really kicked in to high gear.
Yeah.
A lot, where I started like leaning into having to learn new skills or to do things that were out, like content development and teaching. I feel like I can do with my eyes closed. That's the way that the Lord's wired me.
Yeah.
And that is all spiritual gifts. That was not there beforehand,
Yeah.
right? Like I wasn't a good communicator before I met Jesus.
Yeah.
I'd never, even to this day, when I'm not preaching, like doing what God has called me to do, I'm not much of a conversationalist or anything like that. So that's how I know that it's a spiritual gift. But now, like in my new role, I've got to handle finances, and when a wing of your church goes underwater, and you have to now play project manager for it's going to be a pretty significant insurance claim, and you're dealing with contractors and flooring, and you're trying not to make a mistake, because I went to school to study the Bible.
Yeah.
And right now I feel more like a general contractor
Yeah.
than anything else. And so, when that switch happened to where now I was having to handle stuff outside of my comfort zone, that's when that really started to pop up, that imposter syndrome, those feelings of unworthiness. Now, and the crazy thing is, as that has happened, God has also like shown me even more, and this is probably Moses' issue, is that until he went and did what God called him to do, he didn't realize that God had already given him everything he needed for it.
Yeah.
Right, like standing up on the mountain talking to God, or at this burning bush, he doesn't think he has what it takes until it's time to go and actually do it, and then you actually realize, like, oh wow, no, he's already taken care of this as well.
Yeah.
Like I was just meeting with somebody before this, and I was telling them, I said, and I always hate saying this because I feel like every time I say it, God's like, oh, cool, have some more of it. Is like early on in ministry, I would have told you, there's no way I'll ever be good at conflict management. I would either overreact or underreact.
Yeah.
Like horrible at it. Like either I would just let people get away with murder, or I would go so hard that I'd be like, oh no, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but now I will tell you, conflict management is one of those things that I don't mind doing at all.
Yeah.
And I 9 times out of 10 have a positive outcome whenever I handle it. And that would have been one of those things until I started doing it. I didn't realize that God had already like gifted me in that way whatsoever. But I would have told you beforehand, much like Moses is telling God, "Oh, I'm not a good speaker," or whatever it is. Like I would have told you on the in that same moment, I said, I'm not good at handling conflict. Either I go too soft or I go too hard. Either way, and either way is not good when it comes to conflict management in the church. And it's actually ended up being one of the areas where I'm a very big asset to our church in conflict management, because it just, I don't know, I don't even know how it happened. But like I could walk into those situations where if somebody's upset or somebody needs smoothed over, like God has for some reason blessed me to handle that, and I never thought I could.
Yeah.
Ever. Handling the finances of the church, I feel the same way. Like the whole overall administration of the church, I would have thought, man, there's no way. I don't want to handle this. I can't handle this. And from what I've been told from the people that work with me at that level, like I seem fairly competent in it.
Yeah.
And that's probably the lesson that Moses is missing here, is if God called you to do it, he's already gifted you whatever it is that you need.
Yeah.
Right? He's already given that to you, but you probably won't know that if you don't ever go and do it.
Yeah.
Right? That's like that's true of pretty much anyone. You don't know that you already have it until you go and do it, because the only way to find out that you've been gifted that way is to do it.
Yeah.
It's ministry is not theoretical, it's practical.
Yeah.
Right? So like I can tell you that God has given you everything that you need to do your job here at Southridge, but until you go and do it, you might not actually believe that.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's probably where a lot of your issues in this area come from, with self-doubt and stuff. It's like until you go and do it, you're like, huh.
Yeah, I know a little bit more than I thought I did.
I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I promise you, God God is not dumb. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So he's not calling us to go do stuff that he has not equipped us to do. So just like when he told Moses, "Hey, I want you to go to the most powerful man in the world at this time,
Yeah.
not just in the region. The Pharaoh of Egypt is the most powerful man in the world. I want you to go to him and tell him, 'Let my people go.'"
Yeah.
Moses is going, "There's no way I could do that. How could I possibly stand boldly in front of the most powerful man on the face of the earth and speak and demand something of him?"
Especially the amount of people. This wasn't like a couple
Yeah.
hundred people. This is like 1.5 million people,
Yeah,
like
and
estimated.
okay, Moses, you've got a stutter, right? But listen, when you go and you do what God has called you to do, he will have already equipped you to do that.
Yeah.
He already, I said this in a sermon sometime, I don't even know. Everything runs together. But like God has already factored in to our calling
Yeah.
every bit of shortcoming that we have.
Yeah.
Every bit of it. All of our stupidness, all of our selfishness, all of our sinfulness, all of our what you feeling, he has already baked that into the cake. He knows already
Yeah.
when he called you, Moses, you didn't show up at that burning bush and God's like, "Oh my goodness, can you believe we got a guy with a speech impediment?"
Yeah.
He already knew that. He baked that into the cake. And a lot of times he will call us to go do stuff in areas where we don't feel gifted. So the way we will make sure that we understand that it is not us.
Yeah, it's kind of like the opposite of like, you remember that childhood game that you would play, and it was just a simple race, and then you'd line up on the line, and then you'd have like, all the kids line up, and you've got one that's standing at the end, and then they're sitting there going, ready, set, go. God wants you to do the exact opposite of that. He just wants the obedience of you going to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it is important to be prepared in certain circumstances and get the possibly the credentials that you need or some of
Yeah.
the technical training, but God just wants the obedience. He wants you to just
Yeah.
go. And in the midst of that, then you begin to realize that there are some things that God has already given to you or already instilled in you, and there may be some little things that you need to still get training on or whatever, but he's looking for the obedience part of it.
Yeah.
Instead of going, okay, God told me to do this, you know what? I need to go to 4 years of school, and then I need to, get everything ready for me, and then I'm going to be ready to go. No,
Yeah.
he wants obedience.
And-
like,
But even on the flip side of that is, even though God he has already given you everything that you need to go and do what he's called you to do,
yeah,
it doesn't erase the need for your own personal responsibility either.
for sure.
Right? Like God called me to preach.
Yeah.
He gave me a gift to preach. But how far I take that gift or how far that gift takes me
Yep.
is going to be on how much I want to invest into that gift.
Yeah.
I know I know people that, okay, God gifted you, but if you don't go and do your personal part of it,
Mhm.
then you are standing in the way of what God wants to do in that moment. So
Yeah, God has given you the gift to be able to do it, but it's your job to unlock the potential
yeah,
of it.
it's this whole thing. Like, and I know people that are. I've heard people talk about stuff like this. Like, oh well, if God called that person, then like like whatever. It's like, no, but that person then, because God called them, they should feel a heaviness to nurture what God has called them to and such. So like, that statement. This is one of my biggest pet peeves that people say: God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. It's like, that's a nonsense statement, by the way. That's a stupid statement that the church has said far too many times.
Yeah.
Does God call unqualified people? I'm not arguing that he does. Absolutely. He did that with both of us. But the idea that God doesn't call qualified people is an ignorant statement.
Yeah.
like that is a really stupid sentiment to go, no, God only wants you if you're unqualified.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he wants the qualified and the unqualified. If you're the unqualified, he's going to call you, and then you need to take it serious enough to go and invest in that.
Yeah.
Right? Just like this whole idea of like, well, he called me, so I'm just going to, like, no, man, do something with it. Like,
Yeah.
God has given you a treasure in what he has gifted and called you with. Now go and nurture it. Go and do something with it.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, like, I could go in the gift that God has given me for preaching and never nurture it. And sure, that's going to take me a little ways, but like it's God's sovereignty and my human responsibility working together that brings the most out of my ministry.
Yeah.
If I'm lazy, why would God bless my laziness?
No, he doesn't.
That's absurd to think about. But again, yes, God is sovereign. Yes, I have a responsibility. Like I'll never forget when I first started preaching, like as the teaching pastor here, when I was the solely responsible for all the content that came out of this pulpit. I had to come up with every sermon series and everything. And I'm gonna be honest, I remember having this moment because up to that point, I had been keeping these little notes of when I get my chance, I'm going to do this series and this series and this series and this series. And here's what no one tells you when you go into what I do. That dries up about 2 years in.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember having these moments where I went,
what am I going to talk about?
Oh, my goodness. I've used all of my favorite scriptures already.
Yeah.
I've used all of the sermon series that I just had put in notes for the last 7 years. I've got nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was in that moment that now here I am. I mean, I started content development and preaching almost every Sunday of the year in late 2015. Here we are in 2023, and I haven't run out yet.
Yeah.
And it's not because of me. It's because that's God doing that.
Yeah.
In me, which had you told me let me do my math. Yeah. 6 years ago when I was 2 years in and felt like I had no ideas left, I was literally having these little mini meltdowns like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
How do these guys preach for 30 and 40 years? How do they do it? So I'm having these like meltdown moments thinking, I think I ran out of all the good ideas God's given me.
Yeah.
Now I can look back and be like, no, listen, like God gifts and calls and provides everything we need, but we do just have to go and do the hard work of working what it is that He has given us and putting it into practice, or else you won't even know what you have until you finally do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how, even though, like, if you go and look at the scripture, we're in Exodus chapter 4, whenever God and Moses are kind of like, not wrestling, but Moses is kind of making his argument for being unqualified. It says that God's anger was quenched, or like it was like brought down because Moses was like talking to him and saying, I can't do this, like I got a stutter or whatever. And then even though like he was sitting there and making a case against himself, like I can't do this, God just said, all right, that's fine. Like I've got somebody that can essentially be your mouthpiece, and your brother Aaron. Like God was like, he talks really good, right, Moses?
Yeah.
And so God is saying, like, look, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you the right things to say. And it says these things. And so everything that Moses put in front of God, God essentially just said, dude, don't even worry about those people that were trying to kill you because, like you murdered that one guy. Like all of those guys are dead.
Yeah.
Like I've already paved the way for you. Now, obviously, like things are a little bit different with the whole. But he's saying that he's letting Moses know, like, dude, like I've already thought of these things. I've already taken care of you. I've already started working on your behalf.
He's already factored it all in. And that whole thing that you mentioned about, like, okay, so you're not a great speaker. I'm going to put someone with you in that area of weakness.
Yeah.
And that's something else that I've seen in my own ministry.
Yeah.
Like I had Michael with me to complement some of my weaknesses whenever we were doing this together.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who probably is the most complimentary person in my life in my weaknesses has been Pastor Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why God has linked me and her up the way that He has, is because she is really, really strong in my areas of weakness.
Yeah.
She's great in a lot of that. And so that right there, that's what God was doing with Aaron. Like Moses, He's going, okay, so you have this weakness. Well, I know someone that's strong in it, and I'll put them with you.
Yeah.
And that will be, and those people are a gigantic blessing.
Yeah.
Like when you find someone that is your complementary counterpart in whatever it is. And this is one of the reasons why our marriages work so well, is because our wives are not necessarily like us.
Yeah.
Like, God called me to ministry, which in my view, he called my whole family to ministry in that moment.
Yeah.
He didn't bless me with the most bubbly personality, did he?
That's for
you
another
don't even
episode.
have to answer that, and I'm
That's
sure
another-
the people in the back are just chuckling. But he didn't have to bless me with the most bubbly personality.
He
because-
brought me here.
yeah, he brought you. No, he gave me a wife that when I have to go and, let's say I'm having dinner with a new family from church,
Yeah.
he gave me someone in my life perfectly fit for me
Yeah,
to
it's,
play my errand.
yeah.
Because if I had to go sit down with new people from the church all on my own
Yeah.
all the time, like, it probably, like, that is one of those secret strengths of Megan
Yeah.
that
She-
I don't have, but she's great. Like, we went to lunch today with someone from our church,
Yeah.
and Megan is great at that right there.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, so God provides these errands for us in our areas of weakness. He does it for us in our marriages. Most of the time, people are not married to people that are just like them.
Yeah.
You know, the old saying, opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
But especially when it comes to who God is calling, he's definitely putting people in their life
Yeah.
that are complementary to them. Like, if we had more than one me here, it wouldn't go well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I have so many weaknesses. I have to have people that are good in my weaknesses, or else,
Yeah.
I mean, we'd never get anything done.
Yeah.
And that's the same for anyone in any level of leadership. Like, the team that you lead, if everyone is only good at playing guitar and singing like you, well, then it's not going to go well whatsoever. You need someone that is complementary to you, that they have strength in the production, they have strength in
Yep.
whatever it is. Because if everyone was wired just like us, I mean, we'd be really strong in certain areas.
Yeah.
I mean, if everyone here was wired like me, we'd be really strong in content development and speaking, but we might be weak in, organization. As far as, that's one of the things Cheryl does. Her ability to make sure that stuff gets done,
Yeah.
as far as, like, putting stuff into our work management thing. Like, that's something that if I had to do it, oh, sure, I could do it. It would be a drag.
Yeah. You don't get the energy from it.
Whereas she's great at it, and she thinks step by step by step by step, which was something that Pastor Michael was really good at, which is why Michael and I always worked well together.
Yeah.
He was really good on that micro level, where I think, this would have been something I would have told God at the burning bush, that I'd say, I don't think that's me.
Yeah.
I think actually a lot better at the 30,000 foot range now. I'm really good at casting a vision, whereas I used to be really good at putting the steps in place for that vision. I have learned that I'm much better at just casting it out and letting the people that are good at walking step by step do that.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever it is that God's calling you to in life, you have to realize, if it's you that he wants to do it, he's already given you everything. And if it's you that he wants to lead the charge, then he's going to put people around you to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
It's how he operates. He does it over and over and over in the scriptures.
Yeah.
I mean, the disciples that were called for a purpose. Not all of them were the same. You have, the brainiac type like Matthew, who's a tax collector, probably good at math, good at money, things like that. Then you got kind of the brute strength guys, the fishermen, and all over the place.
Yeah. You got somebody who's practical,
Yeah.
like who's
You
like,
got
hey,
the really rational guy,
Thomas.
with Thomas, and
Yeah.
then you got, very concrete people, like, or like really kind of, fly by the seat of your pants people like Peter.
Yeah.
Like, this is the way God puts people together. And it's complementary in the sense of, like, wherever you're weak, he will send people to be strong.
Yeah.
Or if that's not the case, then he will be the strength in that weakness
Yeah.
as well. Like, so, I mean, I know so many of us have these moments with God like Moses did, where we're like, oh, no, God, I'm the wrong person. And I still feel that from time to time when I go, like, God, I still don't know why, of the 8 billion people in the world, why you would want me to lead this church.
Yeah.
But for some reason you have. So I have to trust that. and it is very, very difficult to wrap my mind around that. Still to this day, like there's 8 billion people in the world, and I'm the one that you want to do this. Like surely there are better people, and that that's in our minds. And God's going, I mean, yeah, there's 8 billion people, and there's definitely more gifted people than you, but you're the one that I called.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing to me. But you see that happening with Moses at the burning bush, and he doesn't realize what he has until he goes and works it out, though, until he actually puts it into practice.
Yeah. The good thing is, it's like a little bit further in the story, like God already set up another person that even Moses didn't realize that he was having an issue with, like organizational skills. And God had already provided, like way ahead of time, someone in Jethro
Yeah.
that spoke some life. Hey, like I just need to have a real conversation with you. This is something that like we got to fix this. And that kind of brought something to light that helped Moses out tremendously with
Yeah.
organizing, like dealing with issues and problems and stuff like that. Sending Jethro. So, but I was gonna say that in your weakness of eating vegetables, I'm here to be your strength.
I appreciate that because I'm never going to change. I will drink my vegetables every morning
Yeah,
if I have to, but I will not eat them.
yeah. You drink those athletic greens, right?
I was for a while.
Yeah.
I haven't for a while,
Yeah,
but I've got a whole thing of them in my fridge that I need to get back on and finish those up.
yeah,
But yeah, no, God, I mean, this is the way God operates, and it doesn't always make sense to us why He chooses the people that He does.
yeah. It is. It's interesting to see, like what God does with. I mean, it's been awesome just to see it play out in my life. Obviously, whenever you take a look back in your life, see it play out in your own as well. Just like, and then taking the time to like you said, nurture those things that you know that you have some strengths in, and invest in this time, but also see the provision and people coming up besides
Yeah.
you, coming besides me in our ministries. Obviously, we're not delivering a 1.5 million people from oppression, but the sense of fulfillment that just saying yes to God's obedience.
Yeah.
Whenever He said do something, we just like, okay, I guess so. I don't see something you don't, but it's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
All righty, man. Mystery meat time. All righty. I think this is a question for you and Megan, but what are some of the nicknames you have for us as coworkers?
Nicknames for our coworkers?
Yeah, what are some of the nicknames you have for coworkers?
I don't I mean,
You don't say-
we do call you Badoker because you misspelled your name on one of those computers, and it's still like that.
Yeah.
I will call Anna from time to time Balake,
Yeah.
but that's not really it's not her nickname.
Yeah.
I will normally just call her Anna.
Yeah.
Cheryl, sometimes we'll just say Cheryl because that's funny,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't really consider that a nickname.
Yeah.
Belinda, but again, not a nickname, just something that from time to time pops up.
Yeah, that just unfortunately comes out of my
Yeah.
I don't have any nicknames for anybody. I just
Yeah,
usually
I,
look at you and I'm like, "Hey, pastor."
yeah, we don't really do nicknames so much as we just mess with each other's names from time to time, I guess.
I think we have nicknames for people that go here, but I don't even know if if we've told them to their face. But
Yeah, no, I don't know about
good
nicknames.
nicknames, good
Yeah,
nicknames.
Great nicknames.
I think it's only like one person, and it just happens to be. Oh dang it! It just skipped my mind. What's the nickname we have? Come on, Rarak Pizlero.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
but
that's not even a real person.
no, well, yeah, it is.
Well, it points to a real person.
It
but
points
yes,
to a real person.
we had some fun erasing some letters on
yeah, on
dry erase
somebody's
book, I
name,
got you.
on Brock Reesberg's name.
a. Yeah.
He don't listen to this, so it's all good. But yeah, we need better questions. I understand that, and you get so mad. So fill some up. You're like, I just want to.
No, well, if I filled them up, I still wouldn't like them.
It doesn't matter. I mean, look, we're getting low. Oh, we'll talk about it.
Here's
in
what we
staff
should do. We
meeting.
should put fortune cookie things in the middle of them. In that.
All right, go eat a whole bunch of fortune cookies
No, I
and
don't
put the
eat
paper in
fortune
there.
cookies. That's gross.
What are you talking about?
I don't eat fortune cookies. Do you want to get into this?
Probably not. Do you have a dad joke, or do we just need to get out of here?
Oh, a dad joke.
Come on, you've already hit me with like 2 or 3 today.
Yeah, it was accidental.
I know.
Yeah. No, I don't have one. I don't know what might come out right now. I'm telling you, that pizza has put me in
a coma.
the stunned position.
That's all good.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, next time you got to bring a dad joke, just
Yeah.
like Anna brings her Nana's casserole, and Megan brings whatever she brings, which is nothing. That's a challenge, Megan. All right, we love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And 2 weeks we'll continue our conversation on Moses. I like this.
Big
It's
Mo.
it's just Big Mo. We take little chunks out of it, but that's
Yeah.
all right.
Big Mo.
Hey, have a good weekend. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.